Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday. I hope that you had a great weekend, that you are dialed in, and that you're focused for this week. I thank you for joining me for another Made New Monday where we just talk about this week's episode of my podcast, Transformative Talk with Coach V. And so this week's episode is a very personal episode for me. Now, every episode of my podcast is very personal. I always learn something from every topic as God just downloads and shares things with me to share with you all. But this one really, really hit home in a sense because it was something that I often had heard of, but never really experienced or dealt with myself. And so this week's episode, I'm talking about my experience with imposter syndrome. And so I am in the process of working on my very first solo book. And it has been a very exciting experience. It has been a very intense experience. It has been a very rewarding experience, but it also um, caused me to really reflect on things that I didn't realize that I was dealing with in the process of editing and starting to get things together and really seeing this dream come together. I think that's kind of the big umbrella of the whole thing. I never imagined this being the direction that God would take me in. And I am grateful for every step of it because every step that I take, it's peeling back another layer of the onion, if you will. But it's allowing me to heal in a lot of different areas. So I'm very grateful to God for it. But it just exposes things that you just didn't realize that you were dealing with. And so when I was talking to my book coach, I just was sharing with her, one, just kind of the overwhelming sense that you feel, actually when you read your story, it's one thing to write it, and that's very therapeutic within itself. But then to actually see your words come back at you is a totally different experience. And it took me just to a place where I really had to just kind of take a step back and absorb it. Not only the experiences that I had been through that I share some of in the book, but also, like I said, just the umbrella of this dream actually coming true and being, I think, concerned about um, the authenticity of what I'm sharing, and worrying about how it's received and those kind of things. And let me tell you, just because you have coaches and counselors and therapists, we all deal with the same things. We all deal with the same insecurities. Sometimes we deal with the same fears. Sometimes we still have those questions within ourselves, even though others may come to us and seek advice and wisdom and strategies and plans to overcome those things. We still combat those things ourselves on a regular basis. And so I just kind of found myself in that position and just having that conversation just with her. We just began to talk about it, and I realized that that was part of what I was dealing with, and her reassuring me, look, you know what you know, and this is why you do what you do. Again, this goes back to an episode a couple of weeks back about why you need a village. My book coach, Latoya Nicole, is in my village, and she will forever be in my village. She knows that. And so just having that conversation with her just helped me to realize, what, this is true. Have you talked to somebody? Um, and I told her that I had reached out to somebody, and we'd even touched on it. And so it just having that be a part of helping me to overcome and kind of go through that process, evaluate, because what I realized is it was causing me to then become stagnant. I put everything down. I just kind of went, I just put it, everything I just put a halt to everything. I stopped working on other stuff because I started to let that fear come in, because it's like, Do I really know what I'm talking about? Do I really have something to say that's of value that people will listen to? And so you start questioning and having all those insecurities and everything. And so I just talk about that in this week's episode, and the transformative truths that I came to for myself. And so even in this season of doing the things that I'm doing, creating courses and, preparing for this book launch and all those kinds of things, I then think about the things that I talk about. I am learning to take my own advice, absorb some of that wisdom. Those words come back to you. And that's what I discovered just in this process. Even doing this podcast episode really helped me to reflect and remember those things. And so when I was thinking about a transformative thought for this particular episode, this is what my transformative thought for the week is. I am authentically myself. I walk in the confidence of who I am and show up in the world as my highest self. I have to always read my notes, y'all. Like I don't have them memorized, okay? So the transformative thought again is I am authentically myself. I walk in the confidence of who I am and show up as my highest self. And so even in just those sentences, those are like affirmations. And that's the thing that I found really helpful in combating the enemy in my mind that's trying to see these negative things in my mind. Those are affirmations. I show up as the highest version of myself. I am authentically myself. I walk in the confidence of who I am. I walk in the confidence of God, of who God says that I am, of what God says that I can do, of what God says that I can have. And so those things then quiet the enemy and quiet the negative thoughts in your head. And so I know I don't have to question or doubt or have any fear of what I know God has put on the inside of me, that He has placed these gifts and these talents and these abilities in me to share with others. And do it from a place of authenticity, not try to act like these things never happened, and not to keep quiet, but to expose the enemy and help others to recognize that these things happen to us. They happen to those that you see, those that you may look up to or seek wisdom from. We're not afraid to speak of those things. We're not afraid to speak of our depression and anxiety and the things that we encounter, but that we trust God to heal those things in us so that we can be a voice for those that may feel like they have no voice, to give power to those that may feel powerless, to speak their truth and then walk in that truth, own it and walk in it, and then to be able to help others. And that is all I've ever desired to do with Made New LLC, with this podcast, anything that I post, anything that I create, even with this book, is to show that it is possible, that even though you walk through those dark valleys, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that the things that you experience and go through are not by accident or happenstance. They're very intentional. They have purpose behind them. And that the more that you trust that process, the more you will come out of the situation better. You'll come out of it stronger. You'll come out of it wiser. And that you never question the things that you know, that you know, that you know. If God has given it to you, if God has given you a plan, just very strategic down to the letter, then you go forth, and that is God releases you to do that. And don't allow the enemy to speak to you to make you question or doubt any of that, to make you feel like you're an imposter. I know what I know when it comes to mindset transformation because I have experienced it. I have seen it in myself. I continue to see it in myself. And so it's what I desire to sow into others and to share with others. So I know that this is what I am meant to do. I know this is what God God has called me to do, every experience, everything that I've gone through is so that I could be your mindset coach, to help you transform your mindset, to empower you with knowledge and understanding, to inspire you to make those changes and to stay with the process. And so I know that by no means am I an imposter. And so I just wanted to share that in this week's episode. And so I hope that there's something that helps you, that you'll just take the time to evaluate, and even reach out to me if you have questions or concerns. You can send me an email at madenewllc@yahoo.com. Remember, you can find Transformative Talk on Apple, on Anchor, and on Spotify. I thank you guys for joining me this week for another episode of our Transformative Talk with Coach V, as a part of our Made New Mondays. I know that you're going to have an amazing week. I know that this is going to be a great day. Remember, today is a great day to be made new, and I am always, always rooting for you. I'll see you guys